That was my fault. My bad. I wasn't ready. Well, I'll say good afternoon. Welcome to World of Keeblan African Spirituality class. Now, let me turn this down on the head. You won't get videos because there are no videos of ancient African spirituality or ancient wisdom that we have. So that's going to be the hard part. You're going to get conversation. We're going to have a discussion. We'll talk. We'll share. This will also become a class that behind me we'll set up a scenario where we can have a discord where we can talk and ask questions because a lot of people would love to ask questions about African spirituality and how that relates to who we are, as well as how it relates to our history and how it relate to religion and how we should use it today. Why we should not really focus on abandoning Christianity, but restructuring it. Why we shouldn't be looking at abandoning, because the last two religions that was created on earth was Christianity and Islam. Yeah, we're not going to abandon none of those. Let's take a look at it through an African's eye, using ancient wisdom. Now, in my community, um, if you look at the book that is presented here, this particular book is a book that we had to read when we first came to the community. So that if you are trying to, you're getting acclimated into a Afrocentric worldview of spirituality, this was the beginning. Now, if I tell you, yes, I personally do have a particular African sect that I focus on. Yes, I do. And so we're not going to, at this particular time, pull apart the different sects of African spirituality, but we're going to talk about the foundation of African spirituality. So regardless what you choose, you know what you're walking into. And then how does that relate to us today? How do we use it today? And that's what's the most important. So as we continue again, my community, yeah, Pan African Orthodox Christian Church. I was supposed to cut the volume off on that. I'm sorry. However, let's get here. Let's get back here. That's the community that we are a part of. We do have a faith, African faith that we focus on. There is a group of us, selected few, who are immersed in study. And I was told, again, I am not the expert. I am a Malekio. And when I say I say it with such reverence because I am is the two most powerful words in the dictionary. Because in Christian faith, they say, I am that I am. And so when you say I am, anything that you speak after that is how you're speaking into life. So I am a seeker of wisdom. I'm a seeker of the Creator, God, knowledge, and I seek with you. You know, I seek with you. So let us move forward. Last week we discussed the different stages of or categories of African faith, and for the sake of cataloging, I broke it up because it went like African history and it came back into African spirituality, and it was like 2 hours long. And then I was like, I would have to chop it up. And we said, we're not going to chop it up. But we said, we're creating something that we could catalog for our kids and for later research, which is you'll see it on World of Akibaland. If you go, you see, where's it at? Right there. Right there. Worldofakibland.org is our website. I'll be able to have it up there. Please, like, comment, and share on Facebook, YouTube. Go ahead and click it and subscribe and hit the bell so every time we do it, you'll pop up. Now, again, the recap was the book that we are reading. And in that book, we wanted to sit down and say, in African spirituality, when you look at it as a whole, it did not separate itself from any part of African life. And this is a recap. It did not separate itself from any part of African life. Anything that you did was considered spiritual and in relationship to the those who have gone before, which was spirits or your ancestors, and the Creator. Everything that you did, you know. We also stated, just like African history, in African spirituality, they're not going to look at anything to prove anything on behalf of us. So when we hear comments, even now more than ever in this day, but you will see white boys with dreads. You know what I mean? You will see some Rastas, Rastafaris. You will see some, you mean, some white Hindus. You know, and that's another thing, that we created all spirituality. Everything comes has an African connotation. But our oppressor did not look and will not look at African spirituality from with a sympathetic eye, because he does not want to embrace who we are in reference to how we truly see ourselves in relationship to God and the Creator and the universe and nature. That's what African spirituality does. It gives us the power of our being. The power of our being. That's why even in African spirituality, with the birth of every child, and we'll deal with time. We're gonna that's what we're gonna talk about today. But with the birth of every child, every African name has a meaning to it. It connects you to your people. It connects you to your purpose. It connects you to your ancestors. It connects you to God. My name is Ajay Okono Tahimba Tulanagwe. Messenger from God, as it's my turn, stand as a nation because God is with us. What? I got that meaning and it blew me away. I named my daughter Ayana Mantala Tahimba Tulanagwe. Beautiful one who serves God. Stand as a nation because God is with us. A child can go through their lives understanding that they are always connected by spirituality. Period. One of the other things that we talked about last week also was the evolution of religion. We are also the masters of the evolution of religion. Let me see if I got these words ready again today. No, those, okay, that's not it. It's something else that's coming up. But it was animism. Animism is the practice of multiple spirits. The grass got a spirit, the tree got a spirit, fish got a spirit, just multiple spirits. Animism. Evolving to polytheism, multiple little gods. So you have gods, spirits in polytheism. And then monotheism, where there's only but one God. The evolution of our concepts of spiritual reality, it all came from us. So when you sit down and you calling yourself a Christian, and you sitting saying you trying to look negative on somebody who has a polytheistic spiritual state of being, it's all us anyway. We're such a spiritual people. In the continent of Africa, there are over 4,200 different tribes, and each tribe has its own way of practicing their faith. And it was okay because it's okay. It is how they became healthy, how they became strong. And that's why you got to understand the history of who we are. You got to understand it together. So if you missed the previous hour of African history, please don't miss next week, because we'll start working on the civilizations and watching what we actually created with multiple levels of spiritual theologies, whether it be monotheism, polytheism, or animism. What did we create with our connection and our steadily growth of our life? You know, another thing that we talked about last week was the four sacred areas of spirituality, African spirituality. And let me sit down. Let me switch this. And Muntu is everything that embodied intelligence. Muntu, first category, which is everything that embodies intelligence. And according to the Creator, there we go, music again. According to our understanding, everything that embodies the intelligence, it's going to be God. It's going to be spirits. it's going to be man. And then certain levels of vegetation, I believe, is like certain trees have wisdom. And then you have Kintu, and Kintu are definitely plants, trees, minerals, and animals. Which is, in terms of that states, Kintu is everything that answers to the group that is in the Mantu. Let me go back here. Again, we will be opening this up to dialogue and conversation if you want to follow along. That is the book I'm reading, and what the approach here is to make sure that we have a deep academic understanding. And so we'll have an approach. We'll sit down, we'll look at it, we'll read it, um, and we'll dialogue and pull out the information that helps us in our day and time today. Now, the last two focuses was Hantu. And I see Sister Shakesha. She said, I love this. Shakesha, I'm doing the best I can, Queen, to make sure that we are raising up a nation that will obey the call from the Creator and the ancestors to build a better black empire, a better black nation for our people the world over. And now, the third section that is sacred in African spirituality is Hantu. And Hantu is the how we view time and view space. How we view time and space. And that is going to be our focus today. Before, right after we get to the last part, is the Kuntu. Kuntu is how we express ourselves. We talk about being the most, why are black people so animated? Why are they so spiritual? Why are they so and it is all African. It is our connection to God, the creator, the ancestors, to nature, to animals, to minerals, stones, crystal, meditation. Man, if you have a crystal altar, you know what I'm talking about. It's a spiritual connection to everything. And if you look at each word, it ended in the word NTU, Ntu. And that is the spiritual force that weaves through everything. It weaves through everything. And in Christianity, what would that be called but the Holy Spirit? Right. There is nothing that was created in Christianity that's new. Everything has a foundation in African spirituality. So depending on how you look at your Christianity, does it serve you right or does it serve you wrong? Ain't that something? Too. So now let's take a look or a conversation about time. Time. Africans have their own ontology, their own sense of philosophy and metaphysics when it comes to understanding the nature of being. That's why it seems foreign to us because white folks created Christianity from an African culture, and they said we need to shape this so that we have more control. But there's certain things that they didn't understand and they didn't have. They don't have that harmonizing agent that connects them to all things. They lack that melanin, which is that harmonizing thing. It's in everything. It's the blackness of the cosmos. What? So we have a certain concept that is not always well, it is foreign to them. And what they didn't understand, they demonize. And we are demonizing the same thing. And that's something that we have to be careful of. Demonizing what is ancient wisdom. Now, in this ontology, they have God, spirits, man. And man is considered physical and those who are being born or about to be born. That's man. That's how sacred the fetus is. Animals and plants, and then objects without life, sacred crystals and stones. Everything is spiritually connected. Not one piece of within that section is considered separate. It's all connected. In African spirituality, we sit down and say when you start trying to connect to God and the ancestors, be careful and watch nature around you. I just had a little beetle that I don't know where it came from in my house land on my monitor. Individuals say, hey, when I started getting closer and understanding who I am as an African being inside this American experience, I saw birds follow me. I see, and then everybody has their own experience of which level of nature gravitates towards you, so that your ancestors can say, I'm with you. Right. So it's those things. Now, in that, those five elements are inseparable. God, spirit, man, animals and plants, and objects. Inseparable. And that object that goes through them, the into, for us, the Holy Spirit, however you're going to define it, weaves through everything. And there are individuals who have the ability to manipulate that power or that energy. In ancient times, ancient spiritual African spirituality, they called them the medicine men. In our day and time, we call them healers. You go to church and have somebody laying hands on you. They're healing hands. So when they talk about it with African spirituality, but you talk about it in your Christianity, why is it so negative? Because it's African. And according to your colonized mind, you're supposed to see everything as African as negative. You got to be careful. You got to know when you're slipping in and out of a colonized mindset. Please keep watching us when we're watching AfriStream, when we're watching the African Speaks, when you're watching, we'll go through it. Sundays, World of Akiba Land. Tuesdays, the African Speaks. Thursdays is AfriStream. Saturdays is African history and African spirituality. You got to learn and know when you are slipping in and out of your colonized mindset. When you're thinking with your conditioning and not in the spirit, which is called discernment. Sometimes that colonized mind actually overrides your discernment. Other individuals that we say had access to that in ancient times were witches. In this day and time, we call them psychics, clairvoyance. Wow, that's it. Some people say I'm clairvoyant. Hey, and I remember a time where I was tapped in. I could tell you what was going to happen before it could happen. Literally tapped in. And I don't know if and I have a story. A friend of mine, me and Archie went to Beach Channel School, and we were going home and we were going to walk to the bus. I said, Archie, we can't walk down that street. And Archie, I don't know if you remember this, if you ever see this. And I am streaming live on that page, my New York page. So you can't see this. He said, Archie, we can't go down the street. There's something going on down the street that we can't be a part of, and it's going to hurt us, so we need to go another way. And we went the long way home. Of course, it was tug of war of me trying to prove to him that I knew what I was talking about. But that next day, there were kids down that street just beating kids up with 2x4s, baseball bats, billy clubs. There was a party in one of the community centers in a neighborhood that we didn't belong in, and we had to drive past that neighborhood. They were beating everybody up. Archie came to me the next day and said, how did you know? I said, I didn't. That's that spirit, clairvoyance. Yes, sometimes we can tap into it. And in ancient wisdom, it's called a priest. We call them pastors. Your pastor believes that he can discern the Spirit of God, right? The Holy Spirit has moved me. I have a revelation, right? So if pastors can do it, why can't your African priest do the same? Especially since the African priest is functioning from older wisdom, huh? Think about it. The only thing that I could not parallel when it comes to African spirituality is when you say the rainmakers. No, not that rain. actually rainmakers, because in Africa they were agriculturalists and they needed rain for the harvest season. And so I don't have a comparable thing. However, because we are spiritual beings, we have the power to access that. Now, Christianity, whether you Muslim or whatever it is, you have the ability to access the presence and power of God. That's the thing. And we're talking about time. How sacred is time in the midst of African spirituality? There's a thing of two levels of time. And I'll play catch up because I'll have to create my own graphics from ground up, because again, there are no graphics for African spirituality. No one has taken the tutelage to make these lessons usable in today's society. Next week, we're gonna make sure that when I say a word, the word pops up, it appears. I'm gonna put more time in, and I have to say it. I am going to put more time in for this. I just walked into the realm of the creator and I just spoke life. And we're going to continue speaking life into this journey, because I kept saying I am going to create the African history class, and that I am going to create the African spirituality class. And I am doing it. Once again, I am not the expert. I am the Malakio, a seeker, sharing what I've learned with you. Two types of time when dealing with African spirituality: it's potential time and actual time. How do they see time? Time to an African is deeply sacred. It's not, there is no even concept of wasting time. It's so sacred. Even if you stand still, and we're going to get to that, but potential time. See, African spirituality, they don't look at time as 10 years down the road, 30 years down the road. They don't look further than 2 years in ancient wisdom of African history. No more than 2 years of African spirituality. Potential time are the things that is definitely going to happen. Meaning that next year, if I'm living, I'll be my age. That's definitely, I'll have a birthday. That's potential time. Potential time is one of these days I'll be married. Potential. That may come. One of these days I'll have kids. Potential. That will come. The second part of time is the actual time, which is broken up in two eras, which is the sasa, which is the now. And we always say Pomoja Tuta Shindo Uhuru Sasa, and it's getting you calling together everybody and you're saying freedom now. We want freedom now. We want freedom now, not later. So it's the Sasa and the Zamani. Okay, the Sasa, and so saying the Sasa and the Zamani, and how there's only potential time and actual time. There's no future. They don't talk about the future. Why? Because it's not here yet. You can't touch it. It's not tangible, and it's not even secured. So they only focus in, and so time doesn't exist. And at every single second, you are producing time. You're always producing time. You are never, even when you sit down and say, "Oh, things are not moving." Wait, time is moving, and you're producing time. If you need to spend your time differently, spend it in meditation, spend it in prayer, spend it in silence, spend it in thought. I am. Spend it using I am, which is also called the Moses Code. I am with a comma, that I am. So whatever you got to say, I am powerful. I am rich. I am resourceful. Whatever you're going to say, other than that, there is no future. You're not looking into it. You're looking at your moment right then and there. And so, um, and I want to know if I want to go into this. I didn't even, my notes, right? Okay, we're gonna wait because we're gonna drop into that. And so, time is for an African spirituality and African people is not chronological. When you start looking at, they talking about CP time, or colored people time, because we always late, because we're not chronological. I never understood that. Like, yeah, why are we struggling to be there? Why? Because as an African people, we're not chronological. It is not in our innate spiritual sense to judge our lives from a time clock. We get there when we get there, and it starts when we arrive. And I receive what I'm supposed to get at the moment that I receive it. Time. That wasn't an experience in African life where it was, oh, I got to get this done by one, get this done by two, get this done by three, get this done by four, get this done by five. No, time is experienced through a phenomena or an event. Phenomena meaning the birth of something, right? The harvest, the planting, the watering, the rains, an eclipse. Time is either a phenomena or an event. The first time a child walks, time, the moons up and go. And it's to that point where even in a harvest season, and sometimes the rains don't come. Sometimes things don't happen in a culture. Then that means that time continues. So even in ancient wisdom, and maybe it might still go because I'm not in the bush. I haven't been to the bush. There are no calendars. There are no clocks, no watches. Time is according to the event. If the rain season hasn't come, you're still in that time of the rain season. And so a month may have more days to it than it normally. It may change every year because they're waiting for the time in life where this always happens. This is when the harvest grows. We're still in that time until that harvest grows. That's why they needed rain makers so that they could help govern time for harvest and storing food. Everything was an event or a phenomena. Time. And so a year could be longer than a year. Right. So for us, it's always 365 days. Bloom, stops. For them, well, the rain season hasn't come yet. And so the year's not over until this, or this happens. So that year continues. There's no time. There's no set date. It just exists. We just be. And so that concept, and imagine the power of always living in the sasa, the now. Those two platforms, the sasa and the zamani. Now, the sasa is that now moment. The now moment has an infinite amount of time, but you're always in your now moment. There's nothing greater to an African but the sasa, the now. The second that God gave you, the nanosecond, the now. And so imagine if the sasa was the most important thing, the now was the most important thing in the mindset of an African. That I got to live this moment to not to the fullest of my colonized mind, but to the fullness of what God called me to do and be. What type of, you would understand when we get into the African history, you understand why they were able to create what they created. Because of their understanding and the relationship to the spirituality connection of time. Whoa. Let's get that. Now means more important than anything else because now is the moment that God gave. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad. What? Now, to make that sacred, so Africans didn't talk about the here and after. There was no here and after, go beyond yonder. No, that's not what they focus was not having the best of life later. Because for life for them, and we'll get into that, but I could do it now. Life was spirit, physical, then departed, yet you're still living, and then there's spirit again. Right? Time never existed. The being never ended. In Christianity, it's the God said, I knew you before I formed you in the womb. Meaning your time has always, you've been eternal forever already. You've already been eternal because you existed in the Creator. And so it's Christians say, I knew you before I formed you in the womb. I was spirit. Mm. And now you're formed in the womb, you're man, physical. And so man understands in African wisdom, understands his relationship and how blessed he is to have a nanosecond. Sorry, real moment. I didn't realize I'm doing what I'm doing the way I'm doing it is because I don't like wasting my time. I don't like walking through my day and not feeling like I gave something to my people, not contributed something to the development of a Pan African world. And so in my community, we call it accountability. The Hansu is accountability, and we try to stay on top of each other to be accountable. In my recent years, I'll confess, accountable to nobody because COVID has tore up the community where we don't get to see and talk to each other on a regular basis. It just doesn't happen. And I've asked about why can't we have this where this is happening, where we communicate. And so even before then, all of my time, because I found what life was like when I did not value my time. I saw what I became, and I became a product of the society in which I live, which does not connect me to my ancestors. It doesn't connect me to my culture. It doesn't connect me to my heritage or my people. It doesn't connect me to God. It doesn't. It connects me to the being they want me to be in a colonized society. And only taking ancient wisdom, African spirituality, and incorporating into our lives today can we get past that. Some of us are teetering and tottering on different levels of colonialism. Because some of us use our time wisely, but you're not building nothing towards the liberation of your people. So your level of colonialism is different. So you respect time, yes. But do you respect the purpose of your time? Wow. Everything is godly here. There is nothing void of God in African spirituality. Please remember that Europeans are going to get you to look at African spirituality as though that there was a problem. And it's not. It's not the problem, it's the power, it's the source. So, understanding if this is how Africans thought, why would be necessary to change their religion? Now, Christianity used against the psyche of the black mind, and this is the discussion, and this is why we have to have a group. If we're focused on the here and after, we waste God's time. That's not even written in the notes. So the most valuable thing he gave us was time. And I didn't realize that being in the corona where revelation, I said, look, God gave us he gave us more currency, and I called it currency because it's the only thing that we're allowed to spend the way we want to. He gave us more time with him. He gave us more time with our families. He gave us more time to study. He gave us more time to be still without the interference of colonialism, the hustle and bustle of the rat race. I didn't get to stay home. I was gifted to continue employment, and I sat down and I felt upset because I said, okay, God, if everybody's home and they have an opportunity to get closer to you and build for their community from their homes and from their communities, I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna value my time even more, and it was what pulled me into a more sacred space of my time. And people always ask, how are you doing this? Easy. Time is sacred, and I'm giving it to God. I give it to the spirits, my ancestors. I give it to man. I meditate, pray. So I'm pushing it through I got crystal altar. Yes, I do. Focusing on my symbols, the inanimate things that we connect to spirit means life. I live life by respecting my time. Hmm. So in Christianity, you couldn't if they didn't change the faith, because people are still saying, "Are you going to heaven after you die?" But I'm trying to make sure that I don't live in hell here. So I'm trying to change my existence. When you have an African that understands time, the meaning of it and their connection to it, You can't get them to focus on the here and after and the by and by. Because even in the book, it said, the kingdom of God will not come to you either here or there. It's in the midst of you. Look no further than the tip of your nose. I'm dealing with the God inside to experience life outside by how I use my time. And they say the sasa has an indefinite time because your sasa, you are a manifestation of everything that happened before. Your sasa is a manifestation of all that is behind you. So your sasa extends back, right? Now also, it talks about the zamani has an indefinite. It ends like, yeah, you're never gonna be one again. You're never gonna be 40 again, 50 again. You're never gonna be 10 again. It has definite stops, right? However, it's an infinite amount of time, and it blends into the sasa. Why? Because your now moment cannot be expressed without being a manifestation of everything that went before you, which is behind you, right? So it overlaps and you can never separate the two. It overlaps and they can never be separated. And that's a sacred experience of time. They say being able to feel that, and that energy of time is also woven by the spirit. So how much do you value your time as a person? Do you always realize that you're always producing time? In the Bible, it talks about standing still. Why? Because they also did, do you stand still, or how can you stand still and be productive? Woo! Revelation. How can you stand still and be productive? Because with God, with ancestors, with the nature all around you, you are always producing time. It may not be that moment for you to do anything physically. Well, physically, you're always producing. As long as you're breathing, you're in production of time. That's the connection. You can't, and you can't stop it. The God is always blessing you with time until, and even after that, time is not just physical. Again, your time exists after you leave here. It's just the fact that you transition into another dimension of spiritual reality. But your time, your sasa continues. Your sasa with God. I knew you before I formed you in the womb. I consecrated you at birth. Go do what I called you to do. Time. How are you doing it? You're blessed with your name. Africans, everything is spiritual. That's why we get African names that mean something to remind you how to use your time. This one was born on Tuesday. That's a sacred day for you. We have waited for her. Sacred day. Meanings, names. Woo. Time. And so that's how we do it. In once you become a person, and you have that journey. How are you living? And you're remembered by what you do, right? And so after you transition time, they call in African ancient spirituality, you're like the living dead. Not just dead, but your spirit continues to live. Why? Because you're remembered. You're remembered. That's ancestral veneration, not ancestral worship. You're remembered. So you can continue to exist in that state. That's why I had a friend the other day call me crying because her mother came. My mama, so and so and so out of nowhere. I said, well, she came to visit you. She wanted you to remember her name. And she said, there might be something that you need or something that you're struggling with that she wants to help you with. Our time does not stop because we're physically not here. So we exist as what some call the living dead. ancestral realms. Mm, time. And then when there comes, and anytime someone speaks your name, you can come to assist. And it's saying also you leaving food and, you know, you burn incense, right? You say their name, you pour libations, you're thanking them for the time that they lived on behalf of your sasa. You're not separated. You're not worshiping them. You're honoring their work on this side and their work on the other. African spirituality, the sacredness of time, right? And then when there comes a moment in time where you might have lineages, like I don't know my grandmother's, I didn't know my grandmother. I didn't know my don't know my great grandmother, right? And however, there's one up, one love Bunny, one love Bonetta. They do. They're the oldest ones in the family right now. And so they keep the spirits alive to be able to be accessible immediately because of that time. And then when there comes a generation that doesn't remember the name, right? Doesn't remember the person, that person then begins to exist in spirit, a deeper sense of spirit. That's that ancestral realm. When you're talking about monotheism, God, then you got spirits, lower gods and spirits. They ascend. That you can always call them. No, there are rituals where you can always call them. It says, look, I need those who have walked this earth tens of thousands of years ago, who comes with wisdom that is untold, because there are things that I need to accomplish, and I'm asking you to help me pour through that, pour through me, so that I can access the trueness of who I'm called to be. That's not magic. It's spiritual living. And in African spirituality, it's just common. This is why you can sit down and say, if you have a kid that's gifted and you didn't do anything to make that kid gifted, yeah, somebody's been pouring into that child that spirit before it got here, and it's still pouring heavily. And it's up to you to cultivate that child so that child can manifest into who he's called to be in the sasa, the now, not waiting to be great. And that's why I always tell kids, you don't have to be grown to be the best and greatest you. Use your time wisely. In this era of access of information and resources, you can become great now. And that is African spirituality. Part two. Time. Now Africans are slowly becoming more aware of modern time, chronological time, calendar time. And so you have that where they never worried about certain things before. Yeah, you're gonna have that oh for political power and developing resources and infrastructure and governments and all of that created by modernizing time. Yeah, get here at this time, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Yeah, and so that's a different state of being, because now it's not a free flow of energy. It's I'm being rushed according to someone else's time clock, not my time clock. So now we're not, and usually when they judging time, each people, now this is another thing, because if you got 4,200 different spiritual, uh, uh, different tribes in Africa, on the continent of Africa, you have 22 different types of spiritual disciplines, 2200, sorry, 22, 4,200 different spiritual disciplines. And then you also have 4,200 spiritual disciplines in reference to time management, because one group tribe of time management is not the same as the other. Why? Because everything circles around the way of living of that tribe or that people. So it changes. Nothing is absolute until Christians tell you that if you step out of the boundaries of this, or this, you're no longer Christian. Well, remember, we are the wisest. We have the wisest theology on the planet. There is no group of people smarter or more connected to the Creator when we come out of our colonized mind. That's African spiritual. We can claim any religious faith. Well, we have now people who are dogging Christianity, but they're not building nothing, so what are you dogging it for? You ain't done no better. So you still, whatever faith you have, you're still colonized. Me, yeah, I could tell you, I'm one of them Christians who took over the faith using African spirituality to push out the falsehoods. Yes, I will break that down later as we continue to grow. But we're right now working with this book. And we will set it up where hopefully we'll have some individuals sitting in class next week, if not the week after. But this is how it goes. This is us learning about African spirituality. And please be focused on your sasa. One love.